So just the other day, I made a video, a short specifically, talking about the Empire and how the Empire was ridiculously moronic for trading off the incredible technology that they already had throughout the entirety of the Clone Wars and replacing it with inferior technology like the TIE fighters, the transports, and several other ships throughout the entirety of Star Wars. So today, I thought it would be a great idea to do a video about these ships that the Empire now uses, including the TIE Fighter, including the transports, including the Imperial class Star Destroyer, and talk about how the Republic's ships, as well as the Rebellion ships, are just better in every single way, and how these ships that the Imperials use are completely inferior. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting off, the TIE Fighter is absolutely terrible in every single way, shape, and form that I can possibly put a measurement on. It has no hyperdrive, it has no life support system, no deflector shields, no shielding at all, barely has a navigational system and a sensor system, barely any avionics in it. The only armament that it has is two laser cannons on the very front of the ball, of which is the cockpit. The thing is terrible in almost every way, shape, and form. It is actually so non-aerodynamic that it is less aerodynamic than the modern Jeep Wrangler. Moving on to the TIE Bomber, it's a slightly better story, except it still doesn't have shielding, doesn't have deflector shields, doesn't have a life support system, but it does have a crap ton of armament that you can choose between various torpedo launchers, bombs, and thermal detonators of your choice. The TIE Interceptor, no shielding, no deflector shields, but it does have a life support system for however much that means. And finally, there's the TIE Defender, which, out of all the TIE fighters on this list, is arguably the best one. It has hyperdrive, it has shielding, it has deflector shields, it has a life support system, and an entire armament system between laser cannons, ion torpedoes, missile launchers, proton torpedoes, and even a tractor beam, which would have been extremely helpful during the Galactic Civil War when the Rebellion was literally just about to blow up the Death Star. And honestly, I hope you're seeing my point now. Compare these four ships, the TIE Fighter, the TIE Bomber, the TIE Interceptor, and the TIE Defender, to all of these other ships. We got the X-Wing, which has its own hyperdrive system, it has its own four-pointed laser cannons, and it has proton torpedo abilities. We have the Y-Wing, which is the most usable and the most, important bomber in the entirety of the Rebellion, to the fact that they were so cheap to manufacture and so cheap to repair, but also were so destructive that they could fire ion torpedoes that could take out an Imperial class Star Destroyer. We have the A-Wing, which is literally the fastest ship in the Rebellion, so fast that it makes the Interceptor look like chumps, and they are so deadly that they could take on entire squadrons of TIE fighters by themselves. And the bomber, the B-Wing, which was so devastatingly powerful that it could take out an entire Imperial class Star Destroyer in one shot. Meanwhile, we have the ARC 170, which was a ship that was utilized by the Republic back in the day during the Clone Wars. It had 3 people that could man the ship, a pilot, co-pilot, as well as a gunner, and also an astromech droid, which was so usable during the entirety of the Clone Wars that it was one of the best ships on the line. We had the V-Wing, which was an extremely light and fast interceptor. We had the Y-Wing, which was still being used by the Republic back during the Clone Wars, and that was used later on by the Rebellion during the Galactic Civil War. And on top of all that, we also have the V-Wing Starfighter, which was not only a starfighter, but it was also a bomber that was being utilized by the clones during the very first stages of the Clone Wars when they were fighting against the Confederacy of Independent Systems. All of these ships, compared to the TIE line, especially the Rebellion fighters, these 8 fighters are so significantly better than the TIE fighters, it's not even fucking funny. So the main excuse I keep finding as to why the Rebellion decided to go from the old Republic stuff to the new Imperial stuff, like the TIE line and the new transport, is basically that the Empire was running out of money. They wanted new machinery that was easy to build, that was easy to manufacture, that was cheap to manufacture, so they can make a lot of it and blow up more stuff. Rebuttal, they made the Imperial class Star Destroyer, which costs 150 million credits. Now doing some quick math, there are 20,000 Imperial class Star Destroyers in canon during the events of Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. there's 150 million credits per Imperial class Star Destroyer. So we take 150 million, we times that by 20,000, and we get 3 trillion credits worth of starships in Imperial class Star Destroyers alone. That is not something that is cheap. That is the most expensive brand of ship that you could basically buy on the black market. Oh, and don't even get me started on the fact that each Star Destroyer needs a crew of 37,000 to completely maintain and operate every Star Destroyer, which means you take 37,000, you take that by 20,000, and then you get 740 million people operating every Star Destroyer in the freaking galaxy. So this is currently the situation that we find ourselves in. We have an entire empire that refuses to upgrade any of their old tech. The old tech like the Venator class Star Destroyer, the Acclamator assault ships, the LAATs, the Y-Wings, the ARC 170s, the V-Wings, the Torrent fighters, on top of all of their ground gear. They refuse to upgrade those ships to a good degree and instead replace them with inferior technology that can easily be taken out by rebel cells. Meanwhile, on the rebellion side, we have things like the X-Wing, the Y-Wing, the A-Wing, the B-Wing, all of their ground material, all of their snow speeders, all of the everything that they have, which was refused by the Empire, but instead left to the side to be turned into scrap, and instead was adopted by the Rebellion and used to effectively destroy the Empire in a very significant fashion. Also, if you need any more evidence as to how the Empire wasn't really broke by the end of the Clone Wars, we have the Death Star. Not just one Death Star, but 2 Death Stars. Both Death Stars, which were created by the Empire, completely destroyed by the Rebellion, cost trillions upon trillions of credits, literal massive amounts of slave labor, eradicating entire species, and causing the entire Empire to effectively lose military commanders, military leaders, and God knows how many men. But if you really want to get into the true crimes of the Empire, the real thing that you have to look at is the amount of people that actually defected from the Empire. We obviously have several individuals who were a part of high society who defected from the Empire and often helped the rebellion in every way, shape, and form that they could find. Like Princess Leia Organa, her father Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, but there were individuals who were literally in the sector of the Empire where they actually served under them, like Commander Crix Maydeen, Wedge Antilles, Han Solo, who not only defected from the Empire to join the Rebellion, but who became heroes of the Rebellion. Maydeen literally stole an Imperial shuttle which allowed Han Solo to go to the forest moon of Endor and destroy the shield generator. Han Solo, literally one of the greatest pilots in the entirety of the Rebellion, responsible for keeping Princess Leia safe, also one of the pilots that attacked the Death Star and destroyed the shield generator. Wedge Antilles was there for the attack on both Death Stars and eventually destroyed the second one. So not only do you have these 3 individuals who defected from the Empire and joined the Rebellion, but you have God knows how many other former Imperials who did so-and-so whatever they needed to do to join the Rebellion and eventually cause the Empire's downfall. So throughout this video, the Empire has been responsible for taking old technology that could have been upgraded over time and replacing it with inferior technology that they just made millions of. They created thousands of Imperial-class Star Destroyers that they didn't really need to use in the first place because they could have had the Venator do it. They replaced all of their tech, they replaced all of their gear, they replaced all of their land vehicles with, again, inferior technology that was not required, and on top of that, all of their war crimes that they have committed caused Imperial agents and Imperial officers and pilots to move over to the Rebellion, who were then later responsible for the Empire's downfall. In short, the Empire sucks. I don't make the rules.